Once again, welcome back to the Masterclass. This is Jeffrey Gamboa joining us today. It is October 20th, officially 1:04 Eastern Time. We're excited to already have 90 people, participants joining us today, and there may be more, as of course, every connection may represent more than one person. We're glad that you're here. We're asking that this is a cameras on meeting, so thank you already. There's 3 tabs of cameras open. We do scroll through those. We love to see you when we can, and I'm trying to put names and faces. Don't feel like you got to look in the camera the entire time. Feel free to take notes today. There will be a ton of information coming here with Jeff Gamboa. Again, our masterclass next week will be David Powders. He's going to be on the 27th there. That will once again be 1 o'clock Eastern Time, 10 o'clock Pacific. Today, we have Jeffrey Gamboa. So every time you see the hashtag Vector Trained, I wish Jeff Gamboa got $1, because the guy would be at this point, if he's not already a millionaire, and he probably is, he would be nearing that just based on the hashtag Vector Trained. He is the granddaddy, the original author of hashtag Vector Trained, which I just love. And there's a great story that goes around that from his alma mater, high school. By the way, if you haven't already checked out some of Jeff Gamboa's SLC messages, today we're going to assume that you have. So we're going to try and build on those here. We may go back a little bit, but all that archived content is available for you on Vector Connect, including, by the way, last 2 weeks ago, SLC. Some bullets on Jeff Gamboa. Did you know he hit FSM in 3 weeks? I've introduced Jeff before, and I somehow missed this bullet on his bio. 3 weeks, I guess back in the day, how much was it, Jeff? It was 24,000.
$5,000 you hit
25
FSM.
grand to hit F in 3 weeks, man. So that's
25.
a big fast start. That's strong. Jeff Gamboa, when you say you can tell a great leader by what their people are doing. Jeff Gamboa is promoted. His first division manager was Kate Vassy. Also promoted Kathy Kristen and Andrew Evans to date. So 3 DVMs, and notable ones at that, all coming from Jeff Gamboa's organization. He was one of the youngest division coordinators ever, so obviously got off to a fast start, but just continued to crush that as a branch, and then eventually district manager. And initially started up here in the Northeast, the D.C. metro area. Part of the reason he's a Baltimore Ravens fan. The company asked him to move down to Florida and take over kind of a bigger responsibility with 2 divisions eventually, Florida Caribbean, and I'm forgetting the other name here, but Jeffrey, you can correct me in just a moment. At this point, I want to get out of the accolades and just really dive into what is awesome about Jeff Gamboa. And a big part of that is Heidi Haggerott. They're about to, Dr. Heidi Gamboa, about to celebrate 2 years married this next upcoming week. So looking forward to our masterclass today. Jeff Gamboa, welcome. We can throw some jazz hands for Mr. Gamboa, some snaps or some psh. You're all muted, but you could drop
Nice.
good stuff in the box. So Mr. Gamboa, welcome.
Good to be here, friend. What's up, fam? How are you? How's everyone?
A lot of places we could go here. Jeff was offering to give a bit of a TED Talk or even a recap on the SLC message, but what we're going to try and do is take questions from the chat. So last week we had outstanding interaction on the chat, and we're going to ask for you to do the same up there. It's going to be hard to get to everything, but drop it in the chat, and we'll see if we can't get to that. Hey, Jeff, if we could start off, I imagine that we're going to spend some time here on the social media recruiting assistant program. But I'm curious here first, if you could just start off a little bit talking us through the 4 anchors. I posted a video on Vector, on the BMDM group on Facebook yesterday, and it seems like even in a training video for SMRAs, you're covering the 4 anchors. This seems to be something that is pretty prolific in your division. Would you mind covering what those are? And maybe we'll go a little deep dive in some of those.
Sure. And I think it's interesting. Thanks, Trent. I think it's interesting to go backwards to where that came from. It came from an SLC I attended as a new division manager. And the guest speaker was Matthew Kelly, great business mind, business leader, public speaker. He also happens to be Catholic. So I'm also Catholic. So in some way, shape, or form, I felt really compelled to connect with Matthew Kelly. Fast forward, one of his points in his message was highlighting great companies that really lead from a standpoint of having anchors. And in that example, he was talking about Southwest Airlines. And in Southwest Airlines, they have 3 anchors. They have anchors of on-time flights, they have anchors of low prices, and then friendly atmosphere. And he gave all these great examples of, we will miss your business, meaning we won't compromise on these 3 anchors. And so as is the genius of SLC, it's to create light bulbs, right? No pun intended, all the light bulb moments. And so I went home and I remember probably journaling at the time, probably calling Trent, maybe perhaps at that time. And I just said, I really know that to run the organization that I feel good about, it's got to represent me, and it's got to represent a team, a company, an organization that I know operates in a way that I can feel good to represent here. And at whatever age I was, mid-20s, late 20s. And so we came up with our anchors. Our first anchor was true professionalism. And I can perhaps maybe give the stump speech in a second. Our second anchor was aggressive team building, right? Or explosive team building, rather. Our third anchor is high standards of sales performance. And then the fourth anchor, which I always say is my favorite, it really is, it's aggressive pursuit of growth. And so, whenever we operate in our organization, I know that we can point to those four. When we say true professionalism, Trent, we're saying it's not just a matter of dressing professional and having professional language, although those are two parts of our team. We really operate and treat people the right way. It's about respect. It's about open arms. It's about everyone matters on our team and everyone gets respect. It's about how we do business. It's about follow up with customers. It's doing the right thing. And I think, and one of the things I say is whether you're in Puerto Rico or you're in Florida speaking Spanish, habla español, or you're here, speaking English, it doesn't matter. You're going to get the same true professionalism throughout Florida Caribbean. Explosive team building. That's my segue into why we always ask for names and numbers, why we're always asking you to download names to the app. Why are we asking you to triple threat all the time? It's because, championship teams build from within. And I give examples of high schools recruiting from the best high schools over and over and over again for collegiate sports. And we're no different. So I think that second anchor infuses the recruiting atmosphere of our company. That third atmosphere, high standards of sales performance, I would say pretty self-evident, but it really forces the conversation of, hey, it's a push week. So, where are we? It's a push week, therefore, versus, I see this all the time in the non-summer. You see sales surge in the summer, and then non-summer, it's like people forgot how to sell. Well, I think that's a product of the culture and what's being promoted. And I think since then, it's really been, since we've promoted that, it's been a stronger year-round sales atmosphere. And then, of course, aggressive pursuit of growth. That's anything and everything related to director trained, light bulb moment, leadership academy. And so we're talking about that, Trent, all the time, whether it's SMRA training, not necessarily in the first intro for day one of rep training, but certainly within the fast start, because I think managers who are doing a great job with our system and what we do, they're going to get a new representative to a sales leadership development meeting on their fifth or sixth day on the job. And I think some of you might call that an FSM development meeting, but bottom line, it's a meeting where we get new reps to where they get influence from a division manager. Sometimes it's even a video if there's not a live event. So I just know if a rep launches on a Friday or Saturday, by that Tuesday, they're going to hear about the four anchors, whether it's live or on the video. And I just think that's the beginning. That's where they start to hear it. And they'll hear it every Wednesday address that I have, every big team meeting, and for sure every divisional event. So I think the consistency, Trent, as they say, it's a culture when people finish your sentences. And I can assure you people have heard it over and over and over again.
And I'm excited to do a bit of a deeper dive into some of these as well, Jeff. But I want to, first of all, just thank you for giving us an overview there. Can I go a little deeper on how you came up with these? So you go to SLC, you watch Matthew Kelly, you go, that should be a thing. How did you distill all the things you could have chosen into these four? Would you mind kind of take us behind the curtain?
Yeah, one of the things that I've always respected about our company is that they really allow us the flexibility, autonomy, and the ability to deliver in the way that we want to, right? You can really do you and be you here. That's what I said to my new guys. You can do you and be you here all the time. And I just thought, okay, well, what are the things that are important to drive a successful business here, in my experience at that time? And how do I want to operate? So part of it is I did, if some of you are familiar with the values exercise. So I went through and there's like 365 values and I narrowed it down to my top 6 or 7. That's perhaps one way you could do it. And at that time, I would imagine it was a brainstorm of just writing down all the things that were important to me of how I want to operate, how I wanted to treat people, what I wanted to be known for, legacy, impression of the business. Because if you know the story, I gave up med school, and that's the big part of the bio. And I still wanted that prestige. I still wanted that respect. So that kind of made my list of the true professionalism. And then I also knew that recruiting and sales, anchor 2 and number 3, I mean, that's paramount. We're a recruiting business that sells. And it's not the other way around either, right? If we don't have recruits, we don't sell. So
Right.
anchor number 2 is recruiting. We get them. We really focus on sales. And then that last bit was just, I want to be, and I will always continue to want to be part of an organization where people are looking to grow and thrive and get better, so that whether it's a 3-month stint, a 3-year stint, or 33-year stint with us, we just know that, people are growing when they're vector trained, and people are feeling like they're becoming, as Matthew Kelly says, the best version of themselves. So I would say that's more of a deeper question, answer rather.
Thanks. And folks, if you want us to go a little deeper on any one of those directions, please do drop it in the chat. We can double back to that. I want to zero in on one or two of these. Jeff, I've seen you in many different contexts, and at your wedding, even, for example, conversing with other colleagues of your wife, who is a doctor. And these were guys that hold you in high regard. These are like smart world changers that are like talking about this professional Jeff Gamboa. They love connecting with you. So even though you didn't head down that road yourself, right, in medicine, you've still got that same cachet, that same type of vibe that you're giving off as you're connecting with people. What is that? How does that manifest itself when you're running with some pretty big dogs?
I'll tell you, the Cutco opener always helps, right? So what do you do? Have you heard of Cutco? And I don't know how many of you have decided how you're always going to answer that question, but hey, have you heard of Cutco? And that usually leads me into one of two different directions. But I think, and I promise you, Trent, I know it's going to seem like there's a conspiracy. I'm trying to turn this into Vector Trained 6.0 right now. But the conversation always goes to, what do you do? Whether or not they've heard of Cutco. And I'm responsible for recruiting, sales, and development for blah, 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 blah area. Been with the company since blank. And really what I do is we work with and develop a really, really young 18 to 25-year-old sales force. And then it gets into the story of development, gets into the Vector way. And it gets into mentorship. I think, all those colleagues you met, and Trent, I would say they're a bigger deal than even you just said. But they're all mentors in the medical community.
They're writing the textbooks that everybody else studies.
Yeah, I have 6 textbooks over here with other names on it, right? They're the textbook authors of these big medical procedures, and they're all mentors. So I think the common bond between all the professionals is we're all mentors. They impact young doctors, and we impact, district managers and college students alike. So
I appreciate you sharing this, Jeff, because, it wasn't that long ago where we would have a standard answer, but it felt thin, it felt hollow. And really, Dan Cassette is on the Zoom here today. It's helpful because I believe that you would be two of the individuals that have done a massive work to move us ahead, to move us forward. In other words, we back then didn't have all the accolades that we're getting today from USA Today and all these other companies that are giving us awards for best place to work, et cetera. The answer was, I work for a multi-million-dollar marketing company, and I'm but it was a thin answer. You know what I'm saying? Right. Whereas you're actually going deep into what we really do, and it's awesome.
Right.
It's
fascinating. Our work matters. I actually had to call this morning. Our work matters, and until a district manager, a division manager, a region manager, or the presidents really believe that, it's hard to buy into that. It's, I've been drinking the Kool-Aid since 19, for sure. But when we know that we really do great work, oh, by the way, we happen to have world-class product back. By the way, we happen to have great executives. But and yes, award, but we do great work, and we really. Mike Muriel said this one SLC: we changed the future of America. And then half the room rolled their eyes at Mike Muriel. I didn't roll my eyes. Yeah. I said, "Ooh, do tell." And he said, "We work with 18 to 25-year-olds. That makes up between 3 to 5% of the U.S. North American population. So we impact during some of the most formidable years between 18 and 25, really 18, or if you get a high school graduate, 17 to 22. We work with more of those students than anyone in the world. North America for sure, but I would argue the world. So we really do move America, if you want to take it that way. And ready? If you're a company, what do you do? I work for a company that moves America. I think you would carry yourself in a different esteem. I think you would post something different on social media. I think I would treat someone different when they, clearly were treating me a certain way, but what's the impression I want to give? And I think if all managers knew that, even if you're a brand new district that opened up and you're 19, 20, 21 years old, 22, that's our stamp, right? That's our brand. So I'm passionate about it. So
I love it. If you're looking to drink the Kool-Aid like Jeff is describing here, I encourage you to subscribe to the Changing Lives, Selling Knives podcast. You can hear all of these alumni and current people, both, that are talking about how the Vector opportunities really made a significant and meaningful difference for them in Vector, out of Vector, and in all different contexts in between. So I definitely would recommend that you check that out if you haven't already done so. Can we go a little deeper, for example, into true professionalism? Because as I'm introducing you, Jeff Gamboa, you promoted two of our, I think, two current division managers that are women. So true professionalism, how much does that factor in, especially in a year where we've got more women than ever in TLA? We're going to have, I would suggest, more women than ever in management. What type of effect does that true professionalism have on developing powerful, excellent women leaders?
Yeah, is Katie on this call? I think Katie's on this call.
Katie's here, yeah.
Yeah. True professionalism means respect, right? So, in our organization, we're not trying to develop the most females in the company. We're just trying to respectfully develop people and be good to people. And I think I actually got 2 text messages. How do you develop more women? I said, I don't know. It's probably the same way you develop good friends. It's probably the same way you have good district and branch managers. It's just, you really have to focus on respect. I see Wes Frank, right? I'm Catholic. That's my Jewish brother. What's up, Wes? And we joke all the time. Maybe it's differences in that you have to look at how we're treating people. Maybe it's differences in gender. Maybe it's differences in people's opinions. But we live in a climate where, especially now, our company works with so many different types of people. And as we're the moderators, if you will, right? We're the moderators. So how are we able to see and really operate with empathy? I think respect and empathy, right? My thing, TRA.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is TRA. Whenever someone's working with me for the first time, I'm onboarding a staff. I'm importing a new district manager. TRA, trust, respect, accountability. You can mess everything up working with me. We just can't mess up TRA or we won't work well together. I need to be able to trust you and vice versa. I need to be able to respect you and vice versa. And I need to be able to know I can hold you accountable and, of course, vice versa. And so between the respect and the empathy, Arthur Brooks is someone I listen to, and Arthur Brooks is he's just a speaker anyhow. And he talks about, rather than looking at the differences, can we find out what we do have in common? And if you take a look at my division is a motley crew of Puerto Rican, white, Jamaican, Filipino. There you go. We've got everything, and we've got everything and then everything again. And I just think we have such an open, it's just an awesome community in our division, where people feel trusted, respected, accountable, and there's empathy. And so I think when that really bleeds through recruiting, when that bleeds through how people are greeted on training, when it bleeds through people who are reprimanded, and I don't mean that in a bad way, meaning, okay, you told me you were going to call me, you didn't call me. That's going to be a reprimand conversation. Mm-hmm. But when you operate with true professionalism, right? When I have a branch that doesn't call me back and they say they were going to, say, hey, give me a call back. By the way, we said 3:00, right? Okay. Hey, anchor number 1, right? Oh, my bad. Oh, that's all I have to say. Anchor number 1. They go, yeah, you're right, Jeff. My bad. And we're on the common page here. Yeah.
So can you go a little deeper there in just that we use the term reprimand? It's interesting because once upon a time, the book we read, 1 Minute Manager was talking about the 1 minute reprimand. He's since changed it, by the way, in a re-release. He calls it the 1 minute redirect. But at the end of the day, arose by any other name, it's still the same concept.
Right.
It was always a redirect. It was never truly a punishing reprimand. Help me understand some of your philosophy then between when we're holding somebody accountable, they missed a call. It seems with you the goal is correction, not punishment.
I would even go one step back. The goal is agreements first. I think when you can get an agreement to a call time, you can get an agreement to personal recruiting setup. When you have an agreement with a district manager, I'm going to hire SMRAs, and then you agree on it. You put it out there on the text or on a note, and you follow up. It's easy to address that, right? It's you're grounding the conversation, right? Hey, I feel like you're lazy or you're not really accountable. Versus, hey, Trent, we had 2 calls that were set for this time. You've missed them both. So that to me, it looks like not accountable, but there might be something else going on. So can we talk about that, please? I think it's a different conversation than, hey, you're late, you're not following, and it's already accusing. Herman said this multiple times. He heard it. Be curious before critical.
I covered that last week on the Masterclass. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important too. I think that's important.
Can you unpack that a little bit more, where it comes from? Because you've implied it a couple times here. So when you've got them dead to rights, instead of blasting with what your interpretation of what they've done is, you're doing something different there.
Yeah, and maybe this is how I operate. You just don't know what someone's going through, right? Now, maybe they missed the call, maybe they're really disorganized, or maybe they're just low on the totem pole, but you just don't know. So I always ask, hey, we have this, everything good? Okay, what's up? Okay. And if it comes to be that they were just negligent and it was just pushed to the side, then that's one conversation, but you never know. I'm also very kind of a softie in general, so I prefer to take the softer route. But we learned this together with Greg Miner: hard on results, soft on people. That's really the premise. Hard on results, hard on agreements, hard on objective things, but really soft on people. And that's my version of curious before critical.
Love it. I'm sure some people are going to want to go a little deeper into some of this. I love that trust, respect, and accountability. If we've got those in place, there's really not much that we can't do. And if we don't have those, it's going to be really hard for us to go forward.
Trey, I want to add one more thing, because I find, one of my greatest mentors talks about the difference between transactional and really strong relationships. And when you have strong relationships, not transactional, people don't want to let you down. People already feel bad before they have the conversation about why they missed the call. So I think rather than focusing on, I got the power, rather than focusing on, hey, I said, it's, what's the relationship between that person? And I just really believe that, especially with the group that we're managing, everyone, when you're managing young people, that you don't know if they're going through at home. You don't know what anyone's going through at home. Sure. You don't know who's got a mom or dad, or no mom and dad, or just had a breakup, and you just don't know. And you might be the only person. And I'll try to make this a feel good Cutco wind up, because that's not what this is. I genuinely know that if you just try to see the other side first, true empathy, and you're a little bit more curious versus critical, like Herman says, I don't think you can go wrong. A lot of times, if the relationship is strong, you actually don't have to address anything.
And I appreciate you indulging us here a little bit, Jeff, because this is one of the most common questions that I get as a coach is like, how do I have difficult conversations with people? How do I hold people accountable? Or in this case, how does one have, and this is Josh Thayer actually, I think, looking for a little bit of a role play here. What does hard on results, soft on people look and sound like? And I know you've brushed it a couple times here. Would you mind maybe role playing a conversation like this?
Sure. Trent, what's going on? Everything good?
Hey, yeah, man. I'm sorry I missed the call. I feel real bad about it.
Okay, cool. Hey, well, I actually wanted to call you about the call. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. And before we start, I just want to make sure that we're good and everything's good before the call, so you're nothing funky beforehand, right? You're in a good place.
We're good, man. I just totally lost track of time. The alarm didn't go off, and I feel bad. Yeah, I'm sorry.
All good. Hey, man, I'm not mad. I just want to ask you, a couple of things. First of all, this is the second time in a row I've got us for 9:00, and then you're missing it, right? And for me, it's just one of those things where, you got to be on time. I'm not here to lecture you. I'm not your dad. I'm not your mom. I'm also not your teacher. But we did have an agreement. Would you agree? Is that right?
Yes, for sure. We did.
Okay, cool. And here's the thing. I love working with you. And man, you are killing it right now. And at the same time, these are little things that I'm seeing that I think when they start to compound, it's going to be rough. So here's what I want to tell you. I'm okay setting agreements. I'm not okay with them continuously being broken. And I just want to tell you, at some point, not now, not today, even with you sleeping in 2 times in a row on me, at some point, it's going to hurt the relationship. And I don't want that. I don't want that to happen. Either I'm going to start not trusting you, or I'm going to take it personal, and that's not good. So we're not going to go there. Cool. So either we're going to stop getting these calls, or we're going to change how we're, coming to the calls. But I'm not going to hurt how I feel about you, or not want to manage you, or not want to call you. Does that make sense?
That's fair. That's fine.
So let's figure it out. What do you suggest?
Yeah, it sounds good. Listen, I'm just going to set the alarm from now on. I'm going to make sure I'm good, and I've got a better system now. All good. You ready to move forward? Yeah, man, for sure.
Okay, I won't. No. Water under the bridge. Don't bring it up. And if it's brought up again, then we're not in a good place. Let's just move forward. Good.
Oh, good. Nice little stinger there at the end. That's good.
All right.
I like that. That's outstanding.
Stinger. Yeah.
Like a little, but I mean, it's this truth and humor. Hey, if I'm bringing it up again, we're not a good spot.
Yeah.
That's good. Wow. Lots. Josh says, I need that typed out, but he can't type that fast. Good thing it's being recorded. And I saw a question earlier. These will be posted every week right on the BMDM group. You can download them right that day from Zoom. You can also, we send out a follow-up email to everybody in the field. You can ask your division manager for it because we're saying to the SPMs as well. And that way you can get access to all of the content.
Trent, can I real quick, I want to circle back because I think I want to do it. That's not that tough of a conversation. I want to do like a real tough conversation. You got a manager, you got a branch that's ducking you, you got a branch that's ghosting you, you got a branch that's missing everything. You want to wring their neck, but you have so much belief that they could do well, but they're not.
Yeah. And maybe
I see every head nodding. Okay.
What do you do with a TLA member that's ghosting you now? That's like, hey, this is
even worse.
let's
just say, think of the 3 to 5 worst things that a candidate can do, and this is one that's doing it over and over. Let's do that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Trent, check in and hey, real quick. I think you know why I'm calling, right?
Yeah, I've been missing a few of
those. Yeah. Hey, before we start, how are you coming into the call? You got anything crazy going on that I need to hear about?
School's pretty crazy right now. I'm not really enjoying the program. I'm thinking of switching the major, and it's just it's been a tough semester, man.
Cool. I feel that. I can feel in what you're saying. I can also feel it in all these calls you're missing and all this other stuff that I have a list on that you don't need to hear right now. But what I want to tell you is that I want to end this conversation with us being good. Now, you may not be with TLA, you may not be with Cutco, but I want us to be good. Or you might be with Cutco and you're going to kill it after this. I just want you to know that I'm going to bring some things that might not be comfortable. I want to bring things up to light that you already know. I have 2 things that actually you don't know I'm going to bring up. Okay. So at the end of the day, I need to know that every time I'm bringing something up that you don't think it's like I'm attacking you. I want you to know that I'm in your corner. And I also want you to know this is the part you might not believe. Despite all that, this long list, Trent, is a long list, bro. Long list. I really, 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 I've got your back on this. And I really think you can still be where we were talking about 2 months ago, which seems like we're so far away from. So if there's anything I say that's uncomfortable, anything you think that it starts to feel, okay, Jeff's attacking me, just say, hey, Jeff, timeout. You can do that. It's called timeout. We'll stop because I don't think you need to feel any worse than you do now. You feel pretty bad, right?
Yeah,
I could. Yeah, man. Okay.
I feel bad.
So if you're going to talk to me like that, we're not going to have a good conversation. I just want you to feel open. Okay, I'm going to say some things that might sting a little bit, but as long as you know where I'm coming from and you can call a timeout. Does that work? Are you cool with that?
Good. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. So let's start with the stuff I'm going to bring up. Okay, you tell me, and then I'll go from there. So
you
forget what.
Let them go through it.
Yeah, and I think forget what I said, how I said it. I think the key is I got to preface that we have a great relationship, and it goes back to relationships that are strong, not transactional. Hey, I'm going to dive in, and there's a list. I think you may know why I'm calling. I always ask where someone's coming from. I asked that the other day. Someone had just broken up with their significant other, and no one knew, and no one asked.
Yeah,
but I did. Thank goodness.
Right.
So
you're bringing a positive bias. You're getting curious, and you're thinking, well, what could this be? And even if it's just an open-ended question. Right. I also love that not only you're reminding of where we've been. I heard Matthew Kelly share this at SLC one year. I think this is from the 7 Levels of Intimacy by Matthew Kelly, where he talked about, hey, we're at A right now where we care about each other. And at the end of this conversation, I'd like us to be at C, right, where we're good and we're hugging it out and I'm still in your corner and we're rooting for you, right? B, though, is where we got to go through it. We got to get a little crazy time here, right? But when we get to the end of this, so in other words, you're not sugarcoating it. You're like, hey, we've been good. I'd like us to be good. So you're publishing the fact that, right, we're going to be good at the end of this. And you're also acknowledging this is going to sting. You use that word a couple times.
Yeah. Or even things like, hey, Trent, I want to go through a couple of things. So we're good, right? Okay. I want to go into a couple of things right now, but I just want you to know some of these things I took personally. Some of these things I got a little emotional. And that's why I know that we need to have this conversation because I shouldn't get like that. Neither should you. So I just want to list off the things so you know what I'm seeing. I'll tell you how I feel. I don't think you meant any of it, but I just cool heads reign, right? So let's be cool today. Let's talk about it, and then let's see where we can get to after. I think that's most important today. What's most important is that you feel good and you feel supported and you have direction after this call, not me listing everything you might already know.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of, I would say, trust and respect when you give them the opportunity to call time out. Hey, if this gets too hot at any one point, you can call time out. And that honors them. We do that with our kids. Like, so we might be reading them the riot act, but at some point it's like, hey, this is your chance for appeal. and we'll give them a timeout type of a scenario there. Have you ever had somebody actually give a timeout? Like as you start going through the list, it's too much.
I think maybe. Well, you always ask for permission, right? It's like, are if I had feedback, would you want it? Are you open to feedback? Are you okay if I speak a few things? And they might not be. So I think there have been times where I said, hey, you cool if I give you some feedback? To say, yeah. And they're not. Like, actually, never mind. We're good. Let's get a beer. It's like, we're good.
I got you.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you don't have to get everything done necessarily in one interaction. You can.
Yeah. And if someone's not willing, looking to hear it, then there's no point even going. Yeah.
Connor Ness was asking, hey, after this list of things, can you give us the send-off? Can you give us the tying the bow at the end?
Yeah.
We've had the hard conversation, and now we're good.
Okay, let's assume we got all that. We aired it out. I let Trent know why I wasn't feeling so good. I let Trent know why I was starting to not trust him. I let Trent know all the agreements he already knew he busted with me. Okay, so Trent, where do you want to go from here? So what can we agree to moving forward? So I'll get that. I'll get that list, right? Okay. Like what can we agree to already? And he'll give me whatever his list is, and I'll say, okay, now what can we really agree to? Like for sure, because. Your track record of giving me a list and following through ain't so hot, bro. Like, okay, and they usually laugh too at that point. Look,
so
okay,
they know that trust is earned as that type of thing.
Yeah. So what can you really agree to? ... Great. All right. Hey, I wanted to end the conversation the way I told you I wanted to end. Are we ending that way? You feeling good? You feeling supported? Okay. Is there anything that's left on the table that you want to go back to? Okay. And what do you want to be talking about in our next conversation? That sometimes can be appropriate.
Sure. Love this. I love that we're doing a deep dive on this. This wasn't scripted, by the way. We didn't know we were going to go this direction, but I think this is a really helpful and very relevant conversation. So much more than just vector, by the way. I mentioned I'm using this on a regular context with my kids. So this is leadership stuff right here. This is a high level.
I thought we were doing a homemaker workshop today.
how to sell them the galley.
Sell the butcher knife.
Anything else there, Jeff? We should double back on there. Is your role playing here?
I would say you got to take notes on your people.
Tell me more about that.
Well, I'll give you the base levels for dummies: name, data conversation, what you talked about, and what the agreement was.
And you keep
what did you talk about?
File on your computer or your phone, or
on the computer. Yeah. Another quick tidbit: I have something called ATL, add to list. So if something comes up, hey Jeff, request or question. Hey, is that urgent right now, or can we ATL? Oh, I'll ATL. Cool. So I have every district, every branch candidate has a file, a notes on my phone. It transfers to my computer. It's got their name, and I add it to the list. And I'll say added. And what it really represents is let me respect everyone's time. They respect mine and vice versa. If it's not urgent, let's add it to our next set call. And then I'll say, okay, let's start with the ATL. What do you have going on, Luke? Okay, you wanted to talk about your office rent. Okay, and then SMRA. So I'll go through that. And that way, as a manager, you're not feeling like you have to answer questions and your time's taken up. You ever go through a day and everyone had all these requests and you didn't get to do what you wanted to do. And I think the ATL concept can really help. But taking notes so that, here's one thing I find one of the most powerful things. Hey, Trent, you didn't bring this up on the last conversation. We talked about you following through on that blank. So where are we with that?
So because you've got these notes and you can look at these before the call with this person coming up, you can connect the dots. You can track this. It's almost, and again, from sorting this, you're talking, this is a file in your laptop? Is this in the cloud? Is this
my ATL are notes on my phone, which can transfer to my computer. And then my notes for each call, like more detail, are on my computer.
Okay.
So before every call, I do two things. I review notes. It could be 30 seconds before the call sometimes. And then I usually send a screenshot of the ATL ahead of time. Hey, this is my ATL. Is there anything else before we start?
Okay. You're getting them to think as well then before the call, thinking about what they want to cover.
Yeah, we have a limited time. And I'm very specific about, okay, hey, Trent, I've got 20 minutes. I got a hard stop in 20 minutes. So is there anything else you want to get to, on this list?
Great. It's a great coaching question.
Yeah.
Follow up here. We're getting a question from Josh again, Thayer, saying, if someone is ghosting us on TLA or a top rep that we know just feels bad for ghosting us so long, how do you approach a voicemail or message or video or whatever to get them to respond back? Do you have a life hack there for us?
I do think in this day and age, just being careful not to bombard and overload. I call it the vector hammer, and we're guilty too. This is
Sure.
not pointing the finger.
Yeah.
The vector hammer is, something works, so we beat it to death with a hammer, right? And we overdo it. It's like, oh, their SMRAs are good. Let me hire 30. Like, well, you might be broke. I don't know. I mean, that might not work.
it's a lot.
But there's a balance, and I see Kevin. Kevin Barthur. You know what I'm talking about. You're more experienced, and I think that's an element. But I believe in anything that's a tough conversation shouldn't be a text. That's my first thing. Mm-hmm. So I'll call, and I think nowadays most people don't listen to voicemail.
Right.
So you can I tend to leave a voicemail and then I'll send a text. Hey, I left you a quick voicemail. If that doesn't work, then just text. Hey, not like you to ghost. Seems like something's going on. Love to catch up. No judgment. Open ears. Not here to sell you anything. Not here to get you to do anything you don't want. I think you got to be short and to the point. Hey, haven't heard from you. Sounds like you might be going through something. I'd like to be able to talk to you. No judgment. Give me a shout.
Gotcha. Pretty short, pretty simple, right?
Yeah, and again, not trying to, but that goes back to the relationship. I find that when you have a really good relationship, people don't ghost you like that. Like and I understand like something hits the fan and they go haywire a little bit. That's fine. But a true ghosting, like really, there's something to be said about the relationship. So anytime I have something that happens to me, I go, where was the relationship not strong? Where was the trust, respect, or accountability off on that?
Mm-hmm. Lindsay's asking, when having these conversations with your staff, does your tone or expectations of what you told them, what you hold them accountable to vary, or do you hold all your staff to the same expectations, Jeff?
I think it's a good question. I would say it depends on what your division has agreed to and what the standard is in your office. If you're going to say, hey, every assistant to be an assistant, you have to sell blank every week to be an assistant in the fall, when it's harder to sell, by the way, as you've seen. You have to be willing to hold that line. But if you're saying that, and then people are still assistants in your office with no warning, So I would be careful of making extreme comments, extreme standards that you can't uphold. Maybe start with baby steps if you're having a hard time upholding any standard. But sure. I think there are things that are blanketed across that are equal across, like TRA, like the 4 anchors, like being on time, Zoom protocol, attendance to certain things. That's probably non-negotiable. But it sounds like what Lindsay's talking about are 1 or 2 culprits not hitting an overall promoted standard. Then you probably have to address that individually then.
Well, Jeff, I'll let you go wherever you'd like to go next, but I was thinking about following up there with explosive team building, one of the 4 anchors there, and specifically with SMRAs. Again, an outstanding message at SLC. Thank you for pouring into that, and thank you for all the resources. Just in case you've not seen them, if you're watching on Zoom today, Jeff Gamboa sent us the packet. Like, this is a folder in that handout. You can get this again for the BMDM group. If I get a chance, I'll try to post it in the chat. But there are training videos, scripts, everything that you would need. So one of the questions asked here was, how long is your SMRA interview? Now, that might not be in the notes there, Jeff, so I will pose that question to you in a moment. But the script for that interview is there. The videos that you use are there, the actual video itself. So, Jeff, walk us through a little bit of, kind of give us the 30,000-foot view of SMRA program for Jeff Gamboa and your division.
Yeah. I think let me go a different direction. How do you get started? Because I think that's what everyone wants to know. Look, okay, I heard the talk. The first thing I would do is I would go through all the documents, because I think what can happen, and I've done this, so this is not pointing the finger, where we hear this great program and the documents are even up. I've done this for years watching Drew. Drew gives his talk. Your face is melted off. Oh, and he put all these 1-page documents up. Yet 1 year later, we're still all not shipping what Drew. We're still not doing it. So what's the deal?
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, well, Drew's going to speak on our next call. There it is. And I think people need to process it differently. But what I would encourage everyone to do is take a time to really study like a true student and go through the file. Go through the interview, number one. Okay. Go through the training syllabus, number two. Go through the 4 training videos. 2 of them are company generated, 2 of them are mine. And those are all of these have been vetted by PR task force. So this is also, I guess, company sanctioned, if you will. Like the whole, the big wigs of PRs are now approving this. I would start with those 3 things. I think it was Damien who talked about, I already have an attack list of 200 people since last week. That's great. I mean, that would be my next step, is create an attack list, or, we call it an attack list of how many different people, how many handles, Instagram handles do you have of potential SMRAs that have 1,500 to 2,000 plus followers that give the image that you would want. And most importantly, are from the networks that you really need to get into, college and high school networks. What students go to Florida State University, but went to the high schools in your territory. In fact, I would say action step from this call, if you only just took from today until next week to just work on that list, and could you get it to 200, 300, 400 people in the next week or so? Can you onboard your assistant managers to help you look on, and do the searches for you and get that to 300, 400, 500? And that would be my first action step. I would start with that. And then I think the question, I think it was Damien, maybe. Damien, I'm not sure if he answered this question, but okay, I've got 200, let's say. I think to be safe, 50 to 1 is really safe, maybe even 100 to 1 when you're new. So I would say if Damien says, I've got 200 people on my attack list, that might yield 1 to 2 new SMRAs, maybe 3 to 4. So if you're trying to think of metrics and how that works. So for me, if this 111 Zoom were my division, all of you, I would say, can everyone just get 2 in the next 10 days? That's all I care. If you get 2, it just rolls really quickly. Can you get 2? Now, some of you are thinking bigger. This time of the year, 2 to 3 is really strong. So if you just can you onboard 2 in the next 10 days? Can you launch 2 new SMRAs who are going to, you follow the training program, and they're going to triple threat, which means put Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. They're going to give you a top 10 to 20 list of their friends that you can call. And then you also going to reach out to their personal networks through messaging. I think you're going to see a big movement in your office. So that would be like the quick version and action steps right now.
I think you just covered this, Jeff, but Christina Wild is asking, what's the third step? I think you just got that, right? It's just...
after the training. Yeah. So after the training, these are the priorities. I want networks first. I want callers second, and then potentially sales reps last. Okay. And in terms of easiest to hardest, that's also the same order. So I want new networks. That's the triple threat. That's the top 10 to 20 list. That's the messaging. I want callers. So, and every region's different, I think, in terms of your PR calling program. So some of you, there are some people here where you don't have any receptionists making any calls, but you do it internally through all your assistants. Great. You can do it that way. Okay. And some of you want to staff 3, 4, 5 people who can call. Great. You can do it that way too, and everything in between. And then as far as sales rep goes, I think you're going to put them to 2 weeks and see what happens anyway. So if an RA trains, let's say this Thursday, you want to put them through 1 weekend of messaging. Okay. And then the next week they go through calling, and then you have to really do it case by case. Sometimes you have a receptionist that's just neither one of those jobs is for them, but really the networks were already sent. So there was value in that. There was value in that time, money, and energy spent training that young lady. And then if you do it right, and this is based on what I covered, if you're really presenting the vector opportunity and getting people excited in the training with the videos, and my video does a lot of that for you,
yes,
then they're interested in selling. But to be honest, not everyone's interested. Like if the calling's not for them, and being a brand ambassador or social media is not for them, they may or may not be interested in selling the product. What I do found to be true is that converting a rep to the SMRA is the easiest.
Sure.
That tends to be really easy.
Yeah, going backwards a little bit there. And Jeff, it's important that we put a disclaimer out. We're going to need to do this each week, but as we now venture into company programs or divisional programs specifically, we're going to make sure that everybody's clearly aware, no changes to any of your divisional or office programs without checking with your DVM first. Yeah? Everybody give me a thumbs up. Let me know you've heard it. All right, I said it. So now I don't want to hear, hey, I changed my program not the division or region program because I was on the Masterclass. That can't be how this works, and that'd be a quick way for us to not have Masterclass anymore. So for right now, make sure you're running it by your division manager and talk with your region manager at the very least as well. A couple other thoughts here. We're talking about SMRAs and the timing there. Some success so far. It looked like Paul already got, I think, 2 or 3 based on what you presented at SLC alone. So you started his process there. Well done, Paul. And Connor was actually pumping his tires as well, saying from our division has really been crushing this program since SLC. So that's cool. Paul, if you have any details, go ahead and drop those in the chat here as well. He's asking Paul specifically, what would your first 5 to 6 shift outline for these new SMRAs? What would be your first 5 to 6 shift outline for these SMRAs? Any recommendations?
Can you maybe have him clarify in the chat?
I'm not tracking what that means, but in the chat.
Paul, clarify what you mean by that. I'll do my best on that.
We'll see if we can't come back to that one.
Yeah.
Have you all heard about 5-day training yet? I love it. Dan Cassette is killing me over here. He's a big fan of 1-day training or 5-day training. Just don't tell your DVN that you heard about it from Dan Cassetta, Cassetta at Cutco.com. Jeff Gamboa, I guess if I was to ask you then, what would you've got your outline in the handouts folder at this point, so right. You don't have to think. How much of it's video? How much of it is you when you're training people?
75% of it. 75% of it is just reading the script, and it's not that hard. But here's what the videos do. Okay, my first video helps you pitch the company. So the SMRA feels good about representing. So when they're talking to people, when they're messaging, when they're posting, and perhaps when they're selling, they feel good about the company. So that's done for you. It's about 11 minutes.
It made me feel good about the company. I've been here 27 years. That video made me fired up about Vector. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then the second video is to clarify the position that there's the calling aspect, which is PR caller. There's the social media aspect, which, nowadays some people are calling it brand ambassador. Okay. That's for the most part accurate. And then also talks about the sales rep position, but it really hits on the first two more so than selling. So that's what the 2 videos do. And then the other 2 videos are from Magali, which is 5 basics of the PR approach. That's the PR task force PR approach. And it's passing me right now, but it's another instructional video. And there are links in there for testimonials in case you don't have us MRAs that can hop on and talk about the job, or have reps that can give you good testimonials. There's already 2 or 3 links. It's Angel, it's Buddy Boyd, and Carly. So and you can, if you're tight on time, you show one. If you're really tight on time, you don't show any of them. So it's all in there.
Love it. Jeff, who's running the SMRA program in your pilot?
Okay, so that's the question I get all the time. I think situation is really the boss there. It depends on the makeup of your staff. Ideal situation, you have one person running the whole show. They're in charge of the messaging, they're interviewing, they're hiring, they're training, they're kicking off shifts. I find 7 times out of 10, it's hard to get one person. Right. The lower the experience of the manager. So if I were to say what would be ideal to start, I think the manager should take on the hiring,
sure, the
training, and everything. Meaning, run 1 or 2 full cycles of it before you start teaching someone. I heard 2 managers already. I've already got someone hiring and training. I said, have you hired or trained yet? Yeah. And they haven't. I just think you got to do it twice yourself. I just ran an SMRA training for the first time in 2 years a month ago just to get more current. Okay. So, and I had someone watch. So I think that's really boots on the ground, right? I think that's important. But if I had it for a manager that doesn't have one person that can handle that, I would have one person in charge of everything related to hiring, including the interview. And then I had one person in charge of the training and the shifts that get kicked off. So I would like a SMRA hiring, SMRA training. Okay. And then as the district manager, I would be involved on as many of the shifts as possible. Like, in the Eastern region, we have Sunday kickoff. I would be involved with that if I were district manager.
Gotcha. So even if at some point you delegated the hiring,
yeah, I think
or the training. Okay. It sounds like to me, again, this might be implied there, that you would delegate the hiring before you'd delegate the training.
Correct.
Okay. Correct. The more complex, the more involved you need to be on the front end. So if you're a district manager, you're probably doing most of this on your own right now to
Yeah.
get this thing going. Okay.
And one thing to that point, one of my slides was effective, not efficient. It's really efficient to have someone take care of it all.
Mm-hmm.
If you poll a lot of the Eastern region managers, they don't want to have an SMRA manager that does the training, and they don't want to have an SMRA manager that kicks off the big shift. They want a manager that maybe will kick off the weekday shifts when they're busy, but they want to, the ones that really like Trey Ketchum, he kicks off his meetings. He knows what's going on. Trey Ketchum is in charge. He has a hand in his training. And I think that's what we all did. All the ones that have this at a successful high. So that would be my last action step. Run a full 2 cycles of interviewing, hiring, training, and kicking off. Run 2 cycles. And I think you'll start to get these light bulbs of, oh, okay. Then you'll say, okay, who's on my staff? And then you can put the pieces to the puzzle together. In fact, I'm giving you the medicine I gave to my division. So at the beginning of September, early August, this is what we had everyone do. Even if you had someone slated to be an SMRA manager, and I had 2 managers that had 1 person, I had 3 or 4 managers that had 2, 1 manager has 3 different people. I said, none of that works until I see you run 2 cycles. And they all know. And it's funny because more than half of them changed the direction they were going to go, because they said, well, I would never want to give that part up, or I don't see myself, or that person is probably better slated for this. So running 2 cycles will, not to mention what it'll do to your new business report in 14 days.
Gotcha.
Very, very quickly.
Gotcha.
So,
Jeff, Ryan Mitchell, big fan of the program, first to log in today from the Midwest region, asks, how would a district manager build a relationship with their SMRAs? What does their involvement with the staff/team look like?
Great question. I think if the initial trains run correctly, they're already bought in and tied in. This parallels to why I think it's important for the manager to run the kickoff on Sunday, because if they're training them and then there's just no presence from the manager, I think what the manager can do, even at bare minimum, is start off the kickoff meeting on Sunday with hey, let me give you a hot update on how the team's doing. Okay. Hey, Jeremy, you're that one guy that you talked to, Hans. Yeah, he's already had 2 promotions with the company. Hey, Connor, remember that whole list from Cardinal Gibbons High School? Yeah, all 3 of those kids, they all go to Florida State. They're all fraternity brothers. And they just recommended everyone from their class. So we have tapped into the entire Cardinal Gibbons that go to Florida State University in 1 call. So Connor, that was all on you. Nice job. So I'm doing a lot of recognition coupled with wow, look how it's impacting the team. So I think that's part of the relationship building. I do think back end of the week before the shift, I do think PDI calls with SMRAs are appropriate to cover stats. So a quick version of that looks like screenshot their stats for the week, send them over. Hey, let's get a quick call set, 15 minutes. Want to cover what's going well, what I'd like you to work on this week, and then confirm your paycheck. 15 minutes. If you've got 4 receptions, it takes you an hour. And you could spread that out Thursday, Friday, Saturday if you wanted to.
In a moment, I want to give you an update here for Paul. He's giving us an update here. And Jeff, of course, you can go back to anything that you've been talking about so far,
Sure.
But related to what you just covered, the question from Patrick Carlin in Waco is, do you pay your SMRAs during training because they're messaging people, or do you wait until their first full official day?
Ask it one more time, Trent.
Do you pay employees as they're training even?
They're paid for training. Are you asking like when I cut the check?
So as soon as you bring them in, they're training, whether they're sending messages or not. If they're training, you're paying them, right?
Correct. And I think he might be asking, when does the first check go out? About a week later for everything, for training, first shifts.
Okay, so you keep that consistent, though. Whatever you set that date, it doesn't have to be
no different than old school receptionist program. We pay them after the first. Like I don't pay them daily.
Love it. Good. And as a clarification, I think Hans got it right here. They are employees, so they are paid for their training time, right? That's not a
correct.
That's not a gray area. The law in America says employees are paid hourly for working, including.
Paul, you trying to smoke me out or something? What's going on?
So Paul Kompar says, since SLC, I got SMRA touches from 3-way texts, Facebook ad post, and my attack list. 7 to 10 interviews ran, 6 hired to training, 4 into SMRA training last weekend, and 3 on their first few shifts this week. In terms of the first 5 to 6 days after training, what are the major keys you recommend? Same guy, by the way, it's Paul. What are the major keys you recommend for each of those first few days? How soon do you recommend teaching them Conveyor, Vector Live, etc.? Or how soon do you have them begin messaging? So there's a few questions here from Paul in the chat.
Go question by question, Trent.
Question
First
by
one,
question. So after training, what are the major keys you recommend for each of those first few days?
Sunday, which is their first shift. I would follow the script on the initial, like it's considered training again right before the first shift. I would put together. This is an easy way to explain it. The kickoff on Sunday should resemble a team meeting kickoff. And when there's that much attention to recognition and stats and energy, take what Mike Bromwitz did, tone it down by 10 billion, but get the feel of, okay, right? It's a lot to process. He's awesome, but it's a lot to process for an SMRA even. But that's the feel. People feel good afterwards. They know they're part of the team. They know how the team's doing. They know their role. Right? I think, can you get those key points in? And then I would say lots of role play, the lost art of role play. I think that's, when you think of any sales job, the number one way to get better at something is repetition. So we don't have anyone make calls for the first, like once the kickoff meeting goes, we have about 20 minutes. It's, people argue you should be on the phone. I would argue, well, what kind of call's happening if you're not role playing? So the first 20 minutes after the kickoff meeting, there's a role play, and then we go into the calls. And then after that, the first few days are like their next shifts. I would just make sure you're kicking off shifts. I've seen managers in the virtual world not kicking off shifts where people like SMRs just start doing the job, but I think they need to hop on something where they're given official direction to start. And then the second part, Trent?
How soon do you recommend teaching them Conveyor or Vector Live?
Oh, that's their first Sunday if they're calling.
Okay.
If they're calling.
And
little disclaimer, Trent. Not everyone that goes through our SMRA training is calling right away, right? Because sometimes we already have all of our callers, but we're hiring them for networks, so they might not even get the calling version of the training. And this is old school, like DRA days, if you remember what that was.
It's division recruiting assistant,
right? I always hear I really have to get callers locked in, so I'm training them on Thursday SMRAs, and I want them calling on Sunday. I take the slow approach on calling. I would never let someone on their first Sunday make a single call. I would want them to observe that whole shift on Sunday.
Okay.
Fastest, I would have them call this on a Monday or Tuesday shift. And I would give them easy ones, people that responded to the triple threat that already want the job. Okay. That's who I would give them first. Because how many times have we had a receptionist, they trained on Thursday, their first session is Sunday, they start making calls and then they quit.
Sure.
So we want to make sure that we're bringing them on board the right way. In an ideal world, they train on the Thursday, Friday, they observe all day Sunday in their messaging, they observe all day Monday in their messaging, and they don't make a call till the following week.
Okay. So they start messaging right away.
Mm-hmm. Their first Sunday.
Okay.
That's the third question, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, you nailed it. You crushed it. Good. Lots of great questions in the chat, folks. Keep them coming here. Once again, if you're a guest, we're welcoming you to ask your questions through your district or division manager. Okay, so the receptionists in Vector Live, but not launched reps. Correct. I think that, Patrick, that you've got it right there. Do you ever set up incentive bonuses for SMRAs? For example, anyone who sets up 15 for the cycle gets $10 Amazon gift card. What do you do?
All the time. And this is Eastern Region philosophy, not necessarily mine, but I always err on show two versus total set contest. Right? Because anyone can set a lot. You ever have a rep that sets 20 appointments and 2 get done?
Yeah.
You know what happened. They got pumped for the contest. We'll have we do 2 contests usually. Same day show, dollar bonus outside of the pages. It's just cash bonus. And then what's my second contest? It's usually same day related, or it's show for the cycle. How many people show?
And what type of amounts are you dealing with for prizes? Does it really matter? $10?
Sometimes we'll do $1 extra, $2 extra, and jack it up to $3 per show.
Wow.
Same day if you do a contest. Depending on this, that's a summer thing. We'll say, hey guys, for Sunday, same day show for tonight's Sunday interviews, $1 extra per person that shows. Mm-hmm. And then Monday we want to throw some wood onto the fire. We'll do $2. And then on Tuesday, just finish it strong. We'll do $3. Mm. If you do the math, it's pretty nominal.
It sounds like if you're going to make a mistake, you're going to go heavy. If you're going to make a mistake, you're going to overpay rather than underpay. Is there a philosophy that underpins that?
Well, for those of you that are really into numbers, it's smart investing. I think for us, we think that what's going to yield the most return, and it's this program. You know, you can't put more money into your office rent. You can't put more. You can, but you can't put more money into your anything else. This is the one place now in this vector where you can invest in. So I would say consult your division manager first on your pro forma, like your office budget first, and then from there see what bucks are available to try things. What bucks are available to go a little bit bigger, and what does big look like for your team? Because big for $1 million shipper is different than big for a $400,000 shipper just starting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would say.
Jeff, I'm curious, and you can pass on this one. You can pass on any of these, by the way. But what do you pay SMRAs in your territory?
Yeah, it's not what I pay. It's you have to look at the common market. Ask your division manager. So you have to look at hourly pay and then what's competitive. So right now we're at, it's either 10 or 11, depending on the time of the year for us. Mm-hmm. But in Puerto Rico, it can be a little bit lower sometimes of the year. And then when I was in DC Metro, we had like Virginia.
Yeah.
We were doing $18, $19, $20 base pay for winter break. So that's not, I wouldn't take for what reps, I say and put
right. Yeah. For reps, not for SMRAs. You haven't paid SMRAs $18.
No.
Okay.
So it ranges between 10 and 12.
Okay. But it's not minimum wage, is I guess some of what I'm getting at here. Like we're not just giving the minimum. We're looking to get good people, and usually you get what you pay for to a certain extent, right?
That's right.
Love it. All right. So Connor is asking, Connor Lugo Harris, to be a little vulnerable. I haven't read this thing through. You ready? Let's see how it goes. I've had two limiting beliefs in the past with SMRAs. One is I feel confident in dealing with someone skeptical about the sales job because I tell them that their job is to sell Cutco, not being paid to recruit their friends. How do you address this with an SMRA?
That we're recruiting their friends? Oh, it's in the job description.
It's the premise with which we've met.
Yeah. Right? Hey, I'm just reaching out. We have a social media recruiting assistant position where, very similar to a brand ambassador. Like if you read the interview script, you're telling what the job is ahead of time. So I think you filter that out before you get to the training.
And to encourage you, Connor, the world shifted a little bit from when I was younger. People celebrate being TikTok famous. People are celebrating the number of followers that they have on Instagram. And this is a way for them to kind of monetize that following, which is not a vector thing. That is a North America thing right now.
Yeah, in my experience, and again, I'm the 42-year-old talking like I understand social media really well, and I definitely do not, but I understand how it affects our business. And what I found, now more than ever, is that there are so many people that care less and less and less about posting for us or for any job, or if they believe in something, or if, the term brand ambassador seems to put this little mute on any ill feelings. It's like, are you familiar with brand ambassador? Yeah, it's kind of the same. It's very similar. And it's like, like once they hear that, right. And if someone's not cool with the brand ambassador in general, like on Instagram for their own life, then they won't be cool for the job. And then you'll know before you even hire them, or they'll bail on training. That's the other end. They just won't show up to training.
Love it. Patrick, I'm going to direct you to last week's recording because we definitely jumped into that question with Brian Herman. It would feel like a repeat here. Okay. Jeff Gamboa, can you believe it's already over an hour that we've been jamming here? Just Q&A and just riffing, just jazz. So I want to make sure that we open up anything that you want to touch on. I got a question or two more here, and I think there's still more things hitting the chat here. But if we have a hard 2:30 Eastern stop here for you, because I think you might have something you got to jump into, what would be just so important for us to hear before you left? I imagine some of that might be go through college, but I'll let dealer's choice to a certain extent here.
Yeah,
Jeff Gamboa,
teeing me up here. I think the more you have a cut through college, leadership academy, vector train culture, right? I think the better people's development, the better the brand in your territory, and the better feel you'll have running our great business. That's my first thought. The reason I say that is because it's time for many of you. Like I know, and I see some people from Eastern, your division might be in a place where, okay, this is how the division manager, how and when they promote our Cutco through college and leadership academy programs, or graduating as a 5-star graduate, hashtag SLC 2017, 18, 19, whatever, all the vector train talks, listen to those, right? And some of you don't have any divisional program. if that's the case, or it's not buttoned up, I would reach out and say, hey, division manager, I want to be the ambassador. Hey, let's create our divisional promotion of Cut Through College, 5-star graduate, and vector trained, and in that order, right? Because when our company becomes the company that develops students to have a great experience and get skills for life through college, that's all those fancy terms really mean that you're going to get better everything versus we're the job that sells Cutco cutlery. And there are many great things about doing that. But when it's, oh yeah, my son did that. And I said this all the time. When we get to the point, and some of our territories are, where, oh, this is the job when the parents go, my kid's 17, 18. Okay, you need to do Cutco, right? Through college, because you need, first of all, I want you to pay for part of college. And number two, this is your chance to get those really good skills. You know, Johnny, he's a doctor now. He did Cutco. Look at Luke. He was with Cutco even after college, and he's now running that firm. I think that's a business I can get behind. And I also think it will help with retention and your TLA class and all the development. So action step, right? Action step is rate your divisional program of Cutco through college promotion. And if it's not a 7, 8, or 9, or if it's not a 10, rather, talk to your division manager and, where can we promote this consistently? Like in our division, there's a set time. In every division in our region, it's a tiny bit different, but there's a set time where they know reps are going to hear Cutco through college, and the buzz through the summer is dirty 30 as soon as possible, and how to get into TLA. Dirty 30, how to get into TLA. Those are the two big themes of the summer, and it drives sales and it drives development. And as you know, at the end of the summer, you can look at your August sales. Some of it's September. The last month of your summer 2 campaign. If your sales end strong, you usually had a great Cutco through college leadership academy culture, right? What did Al used to say back in the day? And he was my old RM. He used to say, if you have a branch culture, people will stick around longer. And we've just adopted that instead of branch, because branch isn't the only Cutco through college leadership academy opportunity. Like I genuinely believe leadership academy, period, just going through the meetings is worth it for people. So.
You referenced that in that video, the first of the training videos for SMRAs, but it was really, again, such a broad, excellent promotion of Cutco through college that, again, I found myself getting excited when you were referencing TLA and companies like Nike and Google, I think were a couple that you named there.
Right.
And by the way, just in case you guys were wondering, the company, based on my position alone even, not to mention all the individual district and division managers running free leadership academies, right? But we have, as a company, about a $250,000 investment a year into leadership development. And we're part of a very small number of companies in North America that are doing anything like that. I know Google is, I know Nike is. Jeff, maybe you can speak a little more to that.
Yeah, well, Leadership Academy is not unique to Cutco. All major companies have a way that they want to develop their best people and create management pipeline. So if you take out the bias of us being vector strong, Cutco strong, and totally with our company, we're doing what all great companies do: talent acquisition. I think Herman loves saying that. Talent acquisition. So how do you keep talent around? Give them value and give them opportunity for advancement. So that's what Leadership Academy is. It's giving value, helping people become better and seeing themselves being here, getting something from the company. And then, of course, advancement opportunity. So we're no different. The one thing that does make us different, it's not that our programs of what we teach for finances or what we teach for public speaking are that much better. Maybe they are. You could argue. But it's the fact that we work with these 18 to 25-year-olds. And we're the largest college student recruiting company in all of North America. So of all the companies that have their Leadership Academy programs or whatever they might call it, we're the one that works with the most people in this demographic. Mm-hmm. That's what makes us unique. So where Cutco through college came about was we wanted to own that. I wanted to own, we're the student development company. True story. This kind of came to it. So you guys know I run South Florida and the Caribbean. Tough life, right? And I live in Miami, and I can see South Beach, and I don't frequent South Beach anymore. But there's a place, and some of you know, it's called Fountain Blue. It's a really popular hotel, and there's a nightclub called Live. It's like a world-renowned, like, hip hop stars and moguls and athletes, blah, blah, blah. So I got a call from Albert and the Direct Selling Association national meeting run by Darren Hardy of Entrepreneur Magazine. They were running their national convention. They rented out the whole club for a cocktail social. And Albert invited me. Jim Stitt was there and Bruce Goodman were there. So I got to go to the club. Technically it was the club. So I went to the club with Bruce, Al, and Jim Stitt Sr. Okay, we walked in, and it was a cocktail reception. It wasn't certainly not the club, and they had hors d'oeuvres. It was very classy, and this is kind of where Cutco through college and what we do matters. It's at the heart of this. And I met someone, this young lady, and I met another guy, and they're talking, and Jim's introducing me, and Albert goes, "Oh, I want you to meet so and so," and they had the greatest things to say. They said, "Oh, you know what? No one has figured out how to work with students like you guys." Now, they didn't say it from a context of you develop great people. They just say, like, you guys are the student company. That more or less 3 different people. Come to find out, one was, whoever started Mary Kay. I don't know if Mary is who started Mary Kay, but it was her. And 2 other just moguls, giants. And, they were recognizing, hey, no one has figured out students like Vector and Cutco. And I really believe that no one has figured out students. I mean, that's who we work with. So I think if we own that and give them value in being here, I think you have a better retention. I think you have a better business. I think it's just better overall, all around.
By the way, that intellectual property, how we, how's this special sauce made? This is part of the reason, folks, that this isn't being hosted open and it's not just being on a podcast, right? So this is the secret sauce. It's actually the intellectual property. It's this stuff, right? It's not the Double D Edge. Double D Edge is awesome, and we can't sell as much Cutco as we do without that Double D Edge. But hear me right. Without what we're doing at Vector, the secret sauce of working with students and how we grow people, really that aggressive pursuit of growth that's an anchor there in the Florida Caribbean, it's that makes us special and distinguishes us from everybody, which is why this is under lock and key, right? Which is why we're not broadcasting this on YouTube when we're done with the recording, right? So go ahead and download it from Zoom, but you see why we're not making this open source for the world, right? Because otherwise Herbalife or Mary Kay will steal it. But others have tried, by the way, and not being able to do it, even with our own people, right? We'll talk about that on another day. Jeff Gamboa, with 15 minutes remaining, if I'm a younger district manager looking to make the leap to like $1 million summer performances, or maybe I got to crack that first $1 million nut for the year first, or maybe I just need to sell my first $1 million open, what would you recommend when it comes to aggressive personal growth? Maybe even you could start with like pragmatic. How much time when you started to make those quantum leaps were you spending thinking, reading, planning, etc.?
Yeah, I get this question all the time from newer districts and also TLAs. Hey, what books are you reading, right? I want to grow. I usually answer with your interview and your training manual, right? And I think, and what's the ratio? I have how many managers are reading all these great personal development books, but they haven't read the manual of the car they're driving. And I think for me, what took my leap as a new district manager, to all the leaps we've taken are, are you strong in the 2 to 3 most important movers of our business? What systems have you locked down? And they're almost always recruiting based. So what's your SMRA program? What's your touch generation program, whether it's campus or however you're operating? What's your training seminar program? And what's your first 10-day management program? If you get those 4 things down, you'll have successful reps and more people to choose from. From there, sky's the limit. So my first step would be, what time are you putting in? And someone put a question of what's a new district manager schedule? Their Thursday mornings are dedicated for growing and study. And I don't say personal development necessarily. I just say for study, because a lot of our managers, when we have a weekly call Thursday morning, from that time until day 1 of training around 2:00, they're usually scripting training, they're role playing, they're doing something to grow their business. We say this in our SLDM. What's the difference between a professional and an amateur besides the skill set? Well, and why are they getting paid millions versus nothing for an amateur? Well, one of many things that separates them is that they rehearse more than they perform. So, if you only run trainings, they're 52 weeks in the year and you take a couple off and you're only running training 48 times in a year, that's probably a problem. That means you're only running training when training's up that week versus, what have you done to go through it a few times and rehearse? So that's my first step, Trent. I would say just lock down the most important systems. Number 2, and I'm going to go somewhere different with this, but you got to get good with your finances. You got to get good with your finances, and managers say, I don't know how to work Excel. Well, then you can't run an office. You can't run a business. What business do you know that doesn't understand how to put a spreadsheet together? Like what formidable business in the real world do you say, oh, I'm sorry, sir, I just don't know how to work Excel. Well, learn how to use Excel. Because I used to say that. I'm just saying things I used to say when I was 22, 23. So learn to work Excel, learn to create a document, learn to keep a budget. Trent, you did say something. I want to, that leap shouldn't have to be to $1 million. That isn't necessarily a sign of success. I know plenty of district managers that are sub 800, sub 700, but because they're good with their money, they're banking more than someone who might be shipping an extra 100 or 200 grand. Right. And don't get me wrong. It's nice to get whatever comes with the million or the 800 or the sales, but at the end of the day, we're a business, and the key to business is profit and longevity and development and the type of people that you have in your organization. So I would say getting good with your finances and organization. That's the second thing. Third, I would ask your manager or ask a trusted source for the answer to the third one. What is it? Have an open conversation with someone you trust, respect, and hold you accountable to, hey, let's do an analysis. Here are some things I think are important. Let me rank myself. Can you rank me? And have an open conversation. Do it over some dinner. Do it over some drinks. And I think it'll tell. A manager really cares about you. They'll tell you, hey, I think you need to work on this. And there are, as you can see, books on that. And there are podcasts for that. And then number 4, I would say learn to have a good filter. In this day and age with social media, everyone can tell you how to be successful. I'm not knocking any specific podcast or influencer. What I'm saying is anyone can teach you how to get in shape, but would you be willing to do that way? And do you want that image? If the answer is yes, then follow and do those programs. It's the same thing with having a filter of who you put and who you like and who you pay attention to, because a lot of people are doing it different ways, and you just have to get right with how you want to run your business. And if an influencer might be making a ton of money, but you wouldn't do it that way, or you don't like how they maybe treat people, or maybe that's just not your style, you have to be willing to say no and find your version of that. And there are plenty. If you really want to focus more on just the profit, there's a guru there for that. If you want to focus on a faith-based business, I'm seeing a lot of that. There are people out there for that. So just having the ability to say no, and that comes from knowing who you are and getting right with that. That would be my big 3.
Jeff, if we could circle back to your second bullet here on personal finances and getting organized, can you share with us a little bit of the secret sauce for Florida Caribbean there with TLA and how you guys are getting people educated in terms of personal finance?
Yes. Last year, we actually onboarded and did a partnership with Rachel Richards. Rachel Richards is a Cutco-trained, Vector-trained alumni, former TLA branch manager from the Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio former division, like Bay Powders. And she has since then left Cutco, went on to be a financial advisor. And now she is independent. She quit that job, and she is now a best-selling author. Also, she's living independently income-wise off of her rental properties. So financially independent with her and her husband. And she really caters to millennials. So I found, okay, who's going to really speak the language? Because I think people will listen to me to a certain degree, but then there's something a little sexier and exciting to listen to when it's someone their age or closer to their age. So her book is called Money Honey. Well, not necessarily trying to pitch that, but Rachel, if you're watching, there's your pitch, I guess. There's your plug. Money Honey by Rachel Richards. And we partnered with her last year to give some financial insights. And what I did is I shared with her all of our TLA lessons for the last, what we've been running for financial training the last 6 years. It's been pretty consistent, 6 to 10 years. And she put it into a format that just comes from her mouth versus mine. And that seems pretty effective. I think this is also a great place to go partner with your DVM and ask them, hey, what's our divisional program for teaching finances?
I asked Rachel, I just heard that this was a thing, by the way, and through the grapevine. It wasn't even through you, Jeff. And when I checked in with Rachel, I said, is this like a vector specific, the basics 101 of personal finances? She said, if somebody outside of Vector were to look at it, it wouldn't make sense to them. This is tailored for Vector marketing. I was like, we got to get our hands on that. Maybe nationally, by the way. But in the interim, if they're curious, they should perhaps circle back with their DVM and have the DVM reach out to you.
Yep, that's right.
Excellent. Not selling anything. I don't make any money on that. I'm just loving the very concept of becoming financially literate. And not necessarily even the millionaire next door so much as like, can I save more than than I make. You know what I'm saying? Or save some of what I make. Some of what you earn is yours to keep type of concept there, Jeff.
Yep. That's also, I got a little plug for Dan's podcast, episode number 38. Change your life selling knives.
Rachel Richards, by the way, if you're looking for Rachel. And if you just do a Google search for Rachel Richards, I'm sure it'll probably yield Money Honey is the title of her book. And she has another one. Is it Get Your Financial
Together?
it's got a little SH exclamation point T together. So far, this is a G-rated podcast. This is like we had Hurlman last week, and that was NC-17. Jeff Gamboa, just a few minutes remaining. Any other parting shots, thoughts? I'll take a look at the chat here just to make sure there weren't any latent questions I'm missing here. But
go to the chat. What do the people want?
Look at professional athletes. More than half of their time is spent watching film or practicing. Right, so it's so easily forgotten. That was from Connor Ness. Dan Cassetta put Rachel episode 38. In fact, if you go to the if you Google Changing Lives Selling Knives, Rachel Richards, it'll take you right to it. You wouldn't even look for the 38. It's kind of a cool thing. Deliberate practice is key from Josh Thayer. And Christina Wild saying, thank you, everyone. So, Jeff, we want to make the last word yours. I think if you have to go at 2:30, that's great. I've promised the group I would stick on a few minutes.
I actually have one thing I want to. So I think there's a lot of program questions. So I want to go here. So this is a TLA, district manager, branch manager slide. So as we're teaching, this is the premise. This is systems wise. This is the premise of our TLA. This is the premise of management training. This is the premise of district training and what we focus on. When you think of the five programs that move the business, excuse me, there's your PR program. There are overall best practices, which I'll define, SMRA, fast start program, and demo management. And then when you take that into like the subcategories, I think this is really our business. And so can you get, I think Trent, we were starting this conversation with Hans prior to this. Mm-hmm. Rather than a weakness, what can you be really good at? PR program best practices, and just if you take a look, and certainly you can interpret those differently. This is just what we've been promoting here the last 5 to 7 years since I've been in Florida, and have defined it this way. And then I say to the branches, that seems like a lot, and this might be one of those next 3, 5, 10 years to get to this point. But if you take all of those programs, these are the two you got to get good at, because when you get good at this, you have good people on your team. Even if you're not great with first 10-day management, even if you're not great with training, even if you're not great with PDI, even if you're not great with development, when you have really good people on your team, we tend to cut less corners. When you have really good people on your team, you tend to run a better training. When you have good people on your team, you tend to be more excited to show up on the Zoom. So that's my, my parting shot on programs. I can send the slides.
And I think I heard a lot of screenshots go off around the world in that moment, Jeff. Jim Rohn used to say, it's about a half dozen things that make about 80% of the difference. And what I see you putting up there is about a half dozen things that can make 80% of the difference in your office right now, which is just what a great gift here, Jeff, for you to take 90 minutes to invest into us here in North America. I just love that even though we're drinking from the fire hose of awesome for 90 minutes, it's not like 5 hours at an SLC. So we got a chance to digest this, come back for a little bit more. If you haven't seen Hurlman, of course, that is recorded and you can get back and see that. I would recommend even, folks, that when you go to the Zoom page, I would download the audio and I would download the video. I would open up that audio in my iTunes, and now it's automatically it's like your own podcast where you could just listen to this and try to absorb it over time. One of my favorite things about this week is one of the favorite things about last week. The things that we weren't intending necessarily to get into, Jeff, were really outstanding and very much resonating with the group. So I want to thank you for being generous with the time to answer the questions and to just really bring the best of you. And, I think when people see on the sales report at this point, they've always been impressed with Jeff Gamboa, but they would say, no wonder, right? He's been a serious student of the business, loves our business, and is so good for it. So, Jeff, it's been an absolute pleasure to study with you, beside you, and at your feet on certain topics here for so long now. And I'm excited about the future and Vector's future with you as a distinguished leader in it. So we'll give you the last word to close us out, Mr. Gamboa.
No, just I'll end how we started. We do great work, and don't forget that. So as you approach how you prepare for the position, how you grow your business, how you grow yourself, what you study, how you treat people, what anchors you create, we do great work, and when you really buy into it and really believe that, and you do believe that vector trained is a thing, and it's a great thing. It's just easier to come. It's just easier to bring our best every single day. So, and I also appreciate, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 2:30 in the afternoon now on the East Coast. It's early on the West Coast, but you guys made it a conscious decision to be here. So I think that shows a lot too. That's pretty awesome.
I'm telling you, after these master classes, I've never been more proud of the company than I am right now. 118 people logging on at one point was the high water mark, and just dialing in to learn from the best and to continue to make the best of their opportunity here in America and Canada. We had a lot of Canadians on, by the way, today. I think we were 100% attendance for the region, actually. I could be wrong on that one, but thank you again, Jeff, for bringing just an outstanding session here. I'll stick around for a couple of minutes if Jeff can. I think he will, but we're going to hit stop on the recording right now, which means we could probably even unmute in the next coming minutes here. Thank you officially, everybody, for joining Masterclass with Jeff Gamboa. Next week, join us for David Powder's same time, same channel. Talk to you soon.